Pennsylvania District 3 candidate.
You
I think Ayla Stanford, a doctor. Oh, wow. She's a candidate for Congress. She is currently LARPing as a left-winger in a race that has an actual right-winger in it. And named Chris Rabb, who's an actual non-AIPAC receiving candidate who has condemned Israel for committing genocide. He's the candidate running against her, and she is a $530,000 pro-Israel lobby receiver from independent donors and independent expenditures. She opposes an arms embargo. So here's her LARPing as a leftist for the people. She's asked completely. I just wanted to mention the Israel thing because it really paints how she's about to answer this next question. She's asked about her position on abolishing ICE. And the reporter asks, what would you replace ICE with?
You also said you're running to abolish ICE. Mm-hmm. This is something that we've heard other Democrats and activists talk about.
Yeah.
From an immigration enforcement perspective,
yes.
Who do you think should be in charge of enforcing immigration laws?
It's a good question. And you can pause because I just want to think about it for a minute. Go ahead.
We need to continue, though.
Okay. Who do I think should be in charge of enforcing immigration laws? Not the executive branch, so not the president. So it belongs with Congress. It belongs with Congress because
she is so stupid. Holy shit. What? Since when is that within the purview of Congress? Here's my answer. And it's going back to a version of INS. This is the department that existed before ICE consolidated INS with customs enforcement. INS was just an immigration department. It handled immigration enforcement to some extent, but not in the way that it's like sending a military after you. It's more of handling it like an office that hands out paperwork. That's my ideal world of handling immigration, is that it's an office that files paperwork saying, hey, this person, we know where they are. We know they have an expired visa, or we know that they entered the country illegally. We're going to serve them with some papers, a notice of leave. But we can, in my perfect world, we then, as an administrative office, offer them a pathway to citizenship, a legal way to reside in the country and remain there without having to leave. And that's all it would be. I'm not going to send a militarized police force to knock down their door and scare their neighbors, scare their family. I would say that's the real solution here, is that immigration is simply a paperwork violation. It's not some crazy, action movie. We snuck over the border to go work on a construction site and make taxable income without the government knowing. Like, that's literally not what's going on. It's people who get in here because they are running from their country, or they've heard us, boast about this fucking country so much, about it being the best place on earth, that they come here seeking a better life, I guess. And as misguided as that may be, and then they, start working, or they just reside here and they start looking for work. And maybe they haven't filled out the proper immigration forms to be here. You got to beef up the office that processes those forms so it doesn't take you 8 years to get a green card. And it's just a paperwork issue. Find them, issue them papers, issue them paperwork, some kind of notice, have them show up to an office, process them through, and offer them a path to actual permanent residency. And then, if they want to get their citizenship, they can do that. I don't think it should be this crazy Gestapo military operation But the fact that this candidate can't make that kind of answer, this answer came from her campaign managers. They didn't think to give her a backup answer for explaining why she wants to abolish ICE or what she would replace them with. So they haven't prepped her for any of that. And she doesn't actually believe this because she's a faker. She's a fraud. And so she doesn't have an answer. In her world, she wouldn't even touch ICE. She wouldn't go near that with a 10-foot pole. She'd keep ICE in place. She might play ball with some kind of DHS funding shit for a little bit, but then she'll fall in line with the rest of them. She doesn't hold any kind of bold position on this issue.
Executive branch, and specifically the president, is self-serving. And
the whole like Congress should be in charge of it thing. What are you talking about, girl? What are you talking about? Congress's jobs are making laws and sending us to war. And I guess also being in control of our money. My fingers look like that. That's Congress's job. You can't tack on administrative duties of immigration enforcement onto Congress. That's super risky, destabilized. There's no real proper way to do that. You'd get stuck in like administrative hell. At that point, you're basically doing the job of a parliamentary system. It should remain in the executive branch. I do think that. We do law enforcement through the executive branch. We do transportation regulation through the executive branch. All these different specialized departments. We in policy making, we do through the executive branch with laws to back them up that are made by Congress. That's Congress's job. If you want Congress to have a hand on the steering wheel, they can make laws limiting the scope of immigration enforcement and what can and cannot be done through immigration enforcement. But you can't just give a whole federal department to Congress. That's way out of hand. Like that would not work if you've got, over 400 hands on the steering wheel. It just, I guess really over 500 hands on the steering wheel if you include the Senate. That just wouldn't work out. That'd be way too chaotic.
Any of the decisions that he is making is not about the American people, is not about our safety. It's not because there's imminent threat. It's not because we think there's a nuclear weapon coming to the United States. It's for his personal gain and his personal relationships. And he's shown that over and over again.
But who should be on the ground enforcing? I mean, there are immigration laws.
Absolutely.
In this country and a border. If it's
now, you might ask me, Dane, although it's a paperwork violation, what about known violent criminals that come over? What do you do then? Pass it off to local law enforcement, dog. Give it to local law enforcement. They catch the person through normal legal procedure because everyone's, owed their day in court. Everyone has due process rights. They go through normal procedure of catching the guy. They get the proper warrants and whatever they need. And then you hand them off to federal custody. Hand them off to the FBI after that. That's how it should be done. If they're just some father of two kids, and his wife and two kids are back in whatever country he flew out of. He's just here to make money so he can send it back home. And he ain't doing nothing more than just that. You don't gotta send the military, police force after them. Take the peaceful route. Now, if a guy that is known to be like a murderer and the government of origin knows this and warns the U.S. and we have actual evidence to back this up, then like I said, you pass it off to whatever local department of law enforcement you think is appropriate, whether it be local, state, or even, I guess, the FBI at that point, and have them go after them. You don't gotta send the full. You don't gotta send the troops after everybody, dog.
not ICE, if you've abolished ICE,
Understood.
Who handles
Understood.
it? Who enforces those laws? Who enforces the border?
So you can't once you abolish, you have to rebuild. We're at a point where you can't reform something that is a paramilitary organization that is taking human life.
So are
that
you
they
saying
have
there's a new
no
ICE?
discernment. I'm saying that I wouldn't even use that. I think at this point, the connotation of that word is so negative that you would need a new name. And I just want to push back a little bit. You know, people who come to this country.
Folks, we're calling them nice agents, which is a real thing, by the way, that he wants to call them, are nice agents. Is she saying she wants to rename the organization?
Organization that is taking human life.
So are
that
you
they
saying there's
have
a
no
new ICE?
discernment. I'm saying that I wouldn't even use that. I think at this point, the connotation of that word is so negative that you would need a new
He's talking about discernment.
name. And I just want to push back a little bit. You know, people who come to this country add value and diversify and have helped build the United States. When they're fleeing to come to the United States, it's supposed to be a sanctuary, not a living hell. And we can protect.
All right, she's just dodging the answer. The ultimate conclusion here is that she is a phony candidate, is to not to be trusted, because she doesn't have a real answer on this. She doesn't know what to say because her campaign hasn't given her backup answers for this. And my answer, I already laid it out. You know, INS, paperwork issues. If they're violent, send law enforcement after them on a local level. But if they're just here living, I don't know, send them a notice in the mail or some shit. If you can find out where they are, send them some paperwork and send them a notice. And there you go. Now they go to an administrative office. They're no longer scared of being black bagged and shipped to fucking like El Salvador or whatever the hell. There you go.